Accountability. It's a four-letter word that's not a four-letter word. And today I'm going to share with you why I think accountability and making that part of your premise for how you coach clients could be one of the biggest mistakes you make in your business. My name is Uriel Kame, CEO and founder of Healthpreneur. We help health practitioners build scalable practices that create more impact, more freedom, and more profits. And if you're working with individuals, humans, which I'm assuming you are, then that's amazing. The challenge, though, is what happens when you are working with a client and they tell you that they need accountability. Like they're working with you because they need someone to keep them accountable. It's a very common conversation that comes up. It's a very common desire that many people have. And I want to share a different perspective with you here that is going to ruffle some feathers. It might step on some toes and quite honestly might piss a few people off. I've been coaching humans for the past 24 years, online for about 20. Previously, I played pro soccer. I've worked with 500,000 men and women to help them improve their health, and I've helped thousands of entrepreneurs in the health space build businesses. So what I'm sharing with you here is an observation from working with humans at all spectrums of the game. I've worked with beginners and very, very advanced people across the board. And what I've realized is that if somebody is asking you for accountability, they have already lost. And you're going to set yourself up for a very challenging coaching relationship. Let me kind of map this out. So when someone says, I need someone to hold me accountable, my first thought is, well, why can't you hold yourself accountable? Accountability is an internal game. It's not somebody else's job to keep anyone else accountable. But in coaching, that is one of the biggest, if you will, deliverables, benefits, outcomes of coaching. It's like, I will hold you accountable so you get this thing done. And that's totally fine. My argument, though, is like, why do we feel that we have to hold somebody else accountable? Because when you approach a conversation with that as part of the outcome or the benefit, you're naturally speaking to somebody who can't keep themselves accountable. And if somebody can't keep themselves accountable, then they are naturally somebody who will struggle and has struggled for a very long time. So what ends up happening is you end up working with clients who are a pain in the ass to work with. They are wanting more and more and more support. They get fewer and fewer results. And you start to look at yourself in the mirror and question everything. You're like, what on earth am I doing here? Why is this so hard? Why are my clients not excelling to the level that I hope they would? And it's all because of who we are attracting and how we're speaking to them in the first place. I've spoken about this before. You could have the most amazing Formula One car, but if you put a toddler in the driver's seat, that car is going into the wall. So in our business, we could have the most incredible service, coaching program, product, but if the wrong people are coming into it, it doesn't matter. It's simply going to feel like an uphill battle. In having worked with so many people over the years and kind of looking at myself as well, I've realized that winners have built-in accountability. Accountability comes from desire. And when I'm reviewing, part of what I coach our clients around is helping them become better communicators in, let's say, sales conversations or working with potential clients. And one of the big three objections that I always remind them of is, well, there's three big objections. Two of them have nothing to do with you and your product or service. It has everything to do with the prospect. And one of them is, how badly does somebody want what they say they want? This is a measure of desire. If someone doesn't have a 10 out of 10 desire, then you've already lost. They come in to work with you and they start to fizzle out because it's not a must. It's like a nice to have, other things get in the way. And it just like you set yourself up for a relationship that is not fruitful for either one of you guys. By contrast, and I'll use the example I've used before, is that if someone's kids were kidnapped, you don't need to hold them accountable. They will do whatever is needed to get the kids back. They will swim across the ocean, run through a brick wall. They will come up with whatever money they need for the ransom. You don't need accountability when your desire is a 10 out of 10 must. Because the reason a lot of people get stuck is because things get hard. I need somebody to hold my hand through the hard times. I get that, and I'm all for that. But in an enrollment conversation, and even in the messaging you're putting out to the marketplace, If a big part of your value proposition is tremendous amounts of support, and I'm guilty of this, tremendous amounts of support and accountability, well, don't be surprised when you get clients that are looking for that exactly. And if you're attracting clients who are looking for a very high level of support, a very high level of accountability, what you are creating is an adult daycare. And that's not a lot of fun. Let's look at an example that's the exact opposite. Harvard University has a very, very low acceptance rate because they have a very, very high standard. See, a lot of people think that if you go to Harvard, Harvard's education is so phenomenal that they're going to turn you into this superhuman when you get out. But that's not what happens. Harvard is a good school, but what they do differently and what a lot of Ivy League schools do differently than most is they simply raise the bar to get in. So naturally, people who are not going to succeed in many aspects of life coming into Harvard are simply not going to get into Harvard. So if you apply to one of these types of schools, they're looking at your GPA, extracurricular activity, they're looking for winners. So Harvard and most Ivy League schools, they don't create winners. They're simply talent scouts who look and find winners. That's it. So what if your business was no longer about being super altruistic and being like, and I'm not saying that in a bad way, like, yes, we're going to help people transform their health for sure. But what if instead of saying, I'm going to help this person become a better version of themselves, which by all means you certainly can, what if you just said, I'm just going to find people who are winning already and give them a better vehicle? Now you might say to yourself or say to me, hey Yuri, well, if that's the case, then there's always going to be disparity. There's always going to be disparity in the world of people who win and those who don't. There's always going to be a small percentage of people who own most of the wealth and most others are poor or just getting by. That's never going to change. And it's never going to change because of how we are built as humans. And I know this might sound a little bit pessimistic, but the reality is that's just how it is. And yes, we can maybe tip the scale a little bit, and we can certainly pour into people and coach them and help them develop, which I'm all for. However, you also have to think of what kind of business do you want to run and what type of clients do you want to work with? And I've used this example before when I was coaching soccer recently as well as a long time ago. Like just recently, a couple months ago, I stepped in to help coach my son's soccer team who's 14 because his coach was fired. He was a terrible coach. And they needed a little bit of interim training before tryouts for the next season. So I stepped in to help out because soccer was my whole life for 25 years. And in the first 30 seconds of the first practice, I would have cut half the players off that team because of how they showed up. And right there is an example of like, okay, I can work with these guys and help them develop and help them yeah, I could do that, right? But do I want to? And this is a philosophical question that you really want to answer for yourself. When you look at coaches like John Wooden, who's arguably the most successful coach of all time for the NCAA Bruins in basketball, a big piece of why he was so successful with his teams was because he helped the players not become better players, but become better humans. So they weren't necessarily finding the Michael Jordans to begin with, but they were developing these people, these athletes as humans first and foremost, to then become better players on the court. So I'm all for that. But when you look at, if you're dealing with a lot of issues on the client delivery side, client success, a lot of times, yes, you have to take ownership of making your delivery as amazing as possible. But a lot of times it could come down to the person you're choosing to serve. So if I'm working with, way back in the day when I was a trainer, and I would work with clients who the reason they needed a higher trainer was to have somebody make sure they worked out. I'm like, got it, cool, let's do this. I'll get paid for that. That's fine. But those are not the clients who get the best results because they only do the work when they're with you versus somebody who is very intrinsically motivated to do the work and they have a coach for the next level. Hey, we'll get back to the video in just a moment, but if you're enjoying this content, hit that subscribe button below. It will help me sleep a lot better at night. But more importantly for you, it'll help you build your dream a lot faster. So go ahead, subscribe, and we'll get back to the show. My kids are an example. Obviously I love them, but I don't think they recognize what it takes to succeed at the highest level at this point in their life, right? So my oldest is 14, second is 13. And ironically, both of them were like, yeah, like I want to play pro soccer. I'm like, I don't push this on them at all. I'm like, okay, buddy, because right now, based on how you show up, you train with your team and that's it. Your discretionary effort is put into video games. So when I look at your calendar and I look at how much time you play video games versus how much time you play soccer, I would think that you want to become a professional video game player. And when I'm talking about discretionary effort, it's they require their team environments to give them the motivation and accountability to do the stuff they have to do from a soccer perspective. But the people who succeed at the highest level, the people, the kids or the players who go pro, don't just train with their team. They're obsessed. They're driven at a very high level internally to do the work on their own. So that discretionary effort is what allows them to become so much better than everyone else on their team and in their region. And it's the same thing with any aspect of life. If you want to work with clients who succeed at the highest level, it is a hell of a lot easier to identify people who are winning already and simply give them the better vehicle. If a client or a potential client comes to you and they say things like, this didn't work for me, that program was terrible, I didn't get any results there, it's like, whoa, hold on, cowboy, hold on. Because there's got to be a world in which those programs or those approaches work for other people. So what was it about how you showed up that prevented you from succeeding? Right? And there's this balance between like, yeah, we want to absolve their pain and we want to say, listen, you probably just didn't have the right support, you had the wrong plan. Totally understand that. But my argument is that winners always find a way to win. No matter what program they do, they will win. There are people that come in to work with us and right away in the first 30 seconds, I'm like, this person's going to win no matter what we give them. Like no matter what level of support or accountability we give them, they will win. I can see it. I can see it in how they show up. I can see it in their energy. I can see it based on their track record. So one of the things I want to encourage you to consider is when you are coaching clients or providing a service where they have to do some work, which is pretty much what all humans have to do to get any kind of results, I would encourage you to consider really getting them to sell you on why now is going to be different. So I've talked a lot about this concept called unselling. It's something that's become part of my ethos. You know, a lot of people know me, especially in our coaching programs around this, because this is a big piece of how I believe coaching should be sold. It's, okay, Mr. or Mrs. Prospect, I understand you're dealing with this issue and nothing else has worked for you in the past. Now, instead of saying, oh my God, like our process, our program is very different. We give you so much support and so much love and so much accountability and you're going to do great. It's going to be amazing. Don't blow smoke up people's ass who haven't proven that they have what it takes to win. Mr. or Mrs. Prospect, I completely understand where you're at. I know you've done a lot of things that haven't worked, but I also need to be very honest with you that working with us, although it will work for the right person, it's hard. It's not easy. We simply make it, simpler, a little bit easier. But I need to know from you, like, why is now going to be different for you? Why? I mean, are you really up for this? There's going to be a lot of ups and downs. Like, are you really up for this? Because if you're looking for someone to hold your hand every step of the way, this is not going to be it. I mean, we'll be with you in your corner, but we need you to come in. Batteries installed, ready to go, high desire. Let's make it happen. So what I'm trying to get at here is I'm trying to put the onus back on the clients for them to sell you on why they have what it takes to win. Like, think of yourself as an admissions advisor to an Ivy League coaching program. Like, can you imagine going to Harvard or even going on Shark Tank and the sharks saying, oh my God, like, you're going to crush this. This is an amazing idea. No, a lot of times they're like, show me the numbers. How does this valuation even make sense? How on earth are you going to make this work? A lot of it is very much around posturing as you are the expert and they're having to audition to work with you. It's not about having an ego and it's not about being too cool for school. It's about the facts. You have the results. They have the track record of the problem. For you to then hard sell someone, and when I say hard sell, I mean blow smoke up their ass saying that they will win, even though they don't have the track record of winning. That is called unethical. It's really simple, right? It's unethical to tell someone they will win if they have not won up until now. Like, you don't go to a professional sports team, and a professional sports team is not going to find the worst player and try to give them a huge contract because they're automatically going to start to win on this new team. No, they're looking for players who already have a proven track record of winning, and then those are the players they cherry pick onto their team. So if you take this perspective of you are the prize and the prize doesn't chase, this is the core concept. You have to get your prospects to sell you on why they can succeed with or without your help. That's it. And this sounds weird to maybe think about this. You want clients who are going to succeed even if they don't work with you. Does that make sense? If you're like, oh my God, I'm so special, my program's the thing that's going to make all the difference here, you've already lost. Because now you're trying to sell your approach as opposed to the client, prospective client, selling their internal DNA and like their own drive to win no matter what. Like, again, I'm not a special snowflake, but I'll tell you this. There has never been a time in my life where I've worked with many coaches and been part of many masterminds over the past 15 years. Not once have I asked for a money back guarantee, and not once have I asked for what other clients' results were. I don't give a shit, because if this makes sense to me, I will find a way to make it work and win. That's just because that's who I am. So this is more of a philosophical conversation, but when I say philosophical, it's also strategic, right? Strategic in the sense of like, what should I do? What type of clients should I work with? When you ask a should question, it's usually a clarifying question, which means it's a strategy question. A strategy question is saying no to certain things so you can say yes to a select few. Who you choose to enroll in your program is a decision, and it comes from an underlying philosophy. And that underlying philosophy might be, I just need to make money, in which case you'll work with anyone. Or eventually, hopefully, it's like, no. I want to build a business where I love the people I work with, everyone gets results, and I do my best work with these types of individuals. And if you're clear on that, then it becomes a lot more clear about who you choose to work with. I know that a couple months ago when I was interimly coaching my son's soccer team, I got really frustrated with the organization, which is the largest soccer club in North America, by the way. And I thought to myself, I should just get all my coaching certifications for soccer. Because I actually coached at the University of Toronto for 7 years. A long time ago, but this club requires all sorts of other stupid things. So I'm like, forget it. But for a moment, I'm like, you know what? Like, I'm going to get my B license, my C license, all this stuff, and I'm going to coach these kids. And then I thought to myself, well, if I coach one of my kids, I'm not going to see the other 3. Well, that's not good. But I also thought to myself, if I'm going to coach, I have to be coaching at the highest possible level. I want to work with kids who are so driven that they're going to do things on their own outside of our practice. I don't want to work with kids who I need to remind to tie their shoe when they come on the field. I don't want to work with kids who I have to remind in a warm-up, can you please jog instead of walk? I'm not playing that game. But there's nothing, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with wanting to serve those types of people, because there's lots of beginners or like players at that level or clients at a lower level, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to serve them. You just have to be very clear about what you're getting in for and what you want to build your business around. So to wrap all this up, my thoughts on accountability are: 1, accountability must come from within. If you want clients who are really going to win. 2, that accountability comes from wherever it comes from, it has to come from that person's desire to improve their situation in some way, shape, or form. And when you have clients like that, you don't actually need to work as hard. And this will be interesting because you think that you have to pour into them. You have to give them so much stuff and that they need you. The reality is they don't. They just need to pay, because the transformation happens at the transaction. Sometimes the less you give people, the more they will get in terms of how they show up. And it depends on if you're working with someone super high level, they don't need daily coaching. They might need a roadmap and a couple check-ins here and there. So I encourage you to just reflect and think about the type of business you want, the type of clients you want to work with, how you want to feel. Does it really feel like really hard on the back end? Like you're trying to like twist people's arm to like do stuff? A lot of problems in business, and I've said this a million times, start with a lack of clarity around the perfect client. When we articulate that and we're clear on that, everything else becomes a whole lot easier all the way through the business. So I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments below. If this is something that resonates, if you've noticed this in your business with your clients, let me know your thoughts in the comments. And remember to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. I've got hundreds of other videos to help you build a much more scalable health business. And if you want to see how we kind of work our magic with thousands of clients, you can check out the next video where I walk you through that whole $1 million model. Thanks again. I'll see you in the next video.